Thank you. What did you do?
Hi guys, this is Just E. Thank you for tuning in to Motivational Mondays. Today is about action. This is episode 3, and in light of the topic, I wanted to do a little bit of a change up of scenery. So, ta-da! All right. So, this is my studio that I co-own in Islandia called Audio Workstations. And the reason why I decided to do this episode here is because a lot of this I applied to my own life, and that is why I ended up where I am right now. So I'm going to start with my quote, as usual. It's the one that I wake up to every morning, and it's called "The world is heavy." It goes, "The world is heavy, but your bones, just a cubic inch, can hold 19,000 pounds. Ounce for ounce, they are stronger than steel. Atom for atom, you are more precious than diamonds. Stars have died so that you may live. Remember this the next time you feel weak or worthless." Okay, so that is called "The world is heavy." Once again, that is like my favorite quote ever. So I just wanted to start off with that. Flipping to the right page in my handy dandy notebook. So yeah, action. So I want to start off with saying that a lot of the stuff that I am about to repeat and talk about is a lot of stuff that was said from Lisa Nicole from the IQ Quest. Her interview on that was amazing. I'll have the link in the introduction in the site page. So in the site section. So definitely check it out. It's an amazing, inspirational interview, and the things that she says is just really mind-blowing, because it's really just putting into a lot of words the things that you might have been feeling. And she inspired me a lot, and she's probably the big reason why I decided to do action as this episode. So let's start off with the textbook definition. Action: the process of doing something that you do, a physical movement. Okay? So keep in mind that that's really basically saying it's physical. It's a movement. It's a thing that you are physically doing, okay, or something that is physically being done. Okay, so it's not like emotional. It's not mental. It's very physical. Okay, so the first point I want to get out there is don't focus on action for immediate satisfaction. Okay. So don't focus on action for immediate satisfaction. What does that mean? That to me basically means that if you act, and you're constantly acting on what you want and what you think is right and what is right for you, sometimes you don't take the time to stop and think. And if you have no consciousness with your action, which is something from the Lisa Nicole interview with IQ Quest. If you don't have any consciousness to what you're doing, you don't have any thought behind it, you might start acting in a way that seems right, but isn't true to who you want to be, isn't true to your goal. And maybe that's why sometimes when you're working so hard to get to where you want to be, you start getting distracted and you start getting veered off of the path and start getting more focused on things that maybe action-wise keeps you going, keeps you moving, feeling like you're successful in something, but it's not really getting you to your ultimate goal. With that said, to a degree, yes, you want to live for you, but ask, who do you want to be? If you constantly want to stay true to that, you have to start thinking about how your actions are affecting people too. So if you're constantly getting ahead and you're like, okay, this is all working out for me, I'm getting this, I'm getting that, I'm getting rewards from it. That's the best way to put it. If you're constantly looking at it, you're like, I'm getting rewards from it, so I know I'm doing good, and it's like that immediate satisfaction feel and all that stuff. You feel like you did something and it was worth it, and you know, X, Y, and Z. But then you don't realize, like, you don't look at all the people that you actually like, that you care about, that you hurt to get there, and all the love that you lost to get there. You have to take that time to look and say, how does my actions make other people feel? What is the reaction to my actions? Now, I think of Murphy's Law. every action has, and let me read this actually textbook definition.
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
When I first read that, I immediately thought, okay, you can have a negative reaction or you can have a positive reaction. Okay, but it's always going to be equal. So when you look at that, if you do something that gives you immediate satisfaction, that's kind of that might be negative and hurt other people, there's going to be an equal negative reaction to that in the long run. Now, this is where I believe in karma. If that negative reaction doesn't happen like right then and there, there's a good chance that down the line it will happen. It will come back at them. Whether nobody cared until they became famous enough, whether, it didn't matter and it was never a topic, so it was never brought up until that day that it was brought up. It's the idea that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So, I put a couple examples down. I wrote them down as always, on how an action can turn, how when an action is being done to you and it like something negative, how you can kind of separate them simply as a positive or a negative, which way that you could react. So, an inflammatory remark was one of them. So, simple. You could either have an insulting remark back. So you could have a negative reaction and start insulting them and get angry. Or you could have a positive reaction, which is maybe stay mute. Sometimes less is more. And realizing that not saying anything is way better than what could have happened, like the reaction, because that could make people angry if you don't say anything. So sometimes realizing that reaction is way better than the reaction that you would have gotten if you had talked nasty to them or if you had some type of remark back like that. Walk away is another good way to do it. So action, violence. You see violence, you interpret violence, whether it's through movies, whether it's through people that you've interacted with, whatever it is. You could have a negative reaction and you can further harm and have more violence in your life and try to find ways to justify why it's okay to be violent. Or you could have a positive reaction and find non-violent ways to protest it, non-violent ways to overcome whatever frustration and anger that violence has bestowed on you, whatever, whether it had a traumatizing effect or a PTSD, whatever that is, you could turn it into something that empowers you and you learn to overcome it. And now all of a sudden it's turning into more of a positive reaction, whether you start that group where everyone can safely talk about it, or whether you end up just becoming stronger in your views so no one can hinder you or hurt you in that way. Either way, taking it and turning into a positive reaction. And then bigotry. Easy. Bigotry. You could become prejudiced, or you could have empathy and say, I'm sorry that something so small and insignificant makes you so angry, and I hope that one day you can find that peace, because I'm not harboring that peace with me and taking your anger with me because of the remarks that you have said that is literally subjugated to your point of view, your world that you've lived in, the way that you've grown up, your community. This is all your opinion. Doesn't make it fact, doesn't make it real. Mind you, everything is real within your own world. Like I said, if you connotate your own happiness. So, that brings me to point number 2. Point number 2 about action. Why I think it's important for us to focus on our actions. No one can disrespect you unless you let them. Remember that. Remember that when you feel like you're going to react to somebody because they're pissing you off. Remember that when somebody's reacting to you and you've gotten to their buttons, you push the right button for them. Just remember that, The only way you can let them disrespect you is if you hold on to it. So if you're the type of person who you get really angry and you hold on to it and you bring it into the rest of your day, and that, I talked about this in the last episode, and that anger builds, that they've won at that point. At that point, they're not there. They're probably off doing their own day. They've forgotten all about you. So whatever it is that set them off, that set you off, you're doing it to yourself at this point. You know what I mean? Knowing that we're in a world that you can walk away and you can ignore it and you can kind of create your own world is enough to know that if someone's trying to get you upset and someone's trying to disrespect you, the only way they can truly disrespect you if you view it that way, if you say, oh, how disrespectful, and then you get angry and you let it hold it for the rest of your day. In the moment, of course, you want to defend yourself. You want to, have that moment of speaking your opinion, whether they want to hear it or not. At least you have to say it. That's okay. You can have an opinion. You can advocate for yourself. You can advocate for those who don't speak up for themselves. But the reality is that when you walk away, you have to be able to walk away. You can't wear your heart on your sleeves and hold it into the rest of your day. Be happy. Once again, have that little win, like, I got to say what I had to say. Whether they heard it or not, whether it makes a difference in their lives, in the conversation, and how they view me, I don't care. I got what I had to say, and that's all that matters. I advocated and said who I want to be, and I displayed who I want to be, so that's all that matters to me. And you can feel confident about walking away from that confrontation, or that conversation that could have been a confrontation but ended up not being, because you immediately went straight into that, trying to prevent having that peace at mind. It's not worth arguing with them, it's not worth fighting for them, because I'd rather keep my peace at mind, so I'm gonna walk away, and the conversation gets a little better. Or you try to talk positive at them and they respond well to it, and you end up having a really good conversation, and maybe your mind is opened by their point of view, because now you're understanding why your actions got taken that way, and now you're able to approach people in a different way and get a more positive reaction. So it's always just connotating, trying to look positive, and trying to make sure that all your actions are still staying true to you, still staying true to the person you want to be, the person you want to example for other people, Hold on one second. So the action, you want to make sure that when you're looking at that, and you're constantly building both, because your spirit only cares so much. Now, this is something from the Lisa Nicole thing. She says, action is antidote to despair. Action is the prescription for success. So when you hear that, you immediately think action. So everybody out there that's been taking action but haven't really gotten anywhere and haven't felt good about that action, like it's going to amount to anything, or feeling accomplished after that action, which is the end result, is to accomplish something and feel like you've accomplished it, is because that's your spiritual side. Your physical side, the side that is going to get pleased and feel accomplished and develop physically, is by action, is by physically taking those actions. But you have to have a spiritual development with it. You have to consciously be thinking. I think those words are so wise because it helps you keep moving and not just get stuck in your head. But as she begins to speak about consciousness and the spiritual development versus the self-development, she starts to begin to talk about how the lessons learned through your mistakes, and how that will bring out the best of you, and how understanding that you can't put yourself in a box. Because if you know the social norm, and this is the social norm, and you don't want to be in that box, you don't want to be part of that social norms, you have to socially accept that about yourself and be happy with yourself and say, okay, I'm okay with that. I love myself anyway, and I don't care, what other people say, what other people think, what they might say to me. I know that when I first started going for my dream to be a musician, an artist, really, a singer, songwriter, and making my own music, a lot of people were nervous about this because I had started so many things and not finished it. In their mind, they were like, well, I don't want to encourage you, put money towards you, do all these things to help you get ahead. And then you just end up not being deep into it and all this money's kind of wasted, and now you go into something else that you're interested in, you know. But I realized that all the other stuff I really did to appease other people, and that this was the first thing I wanted to do for myself. You know, getting to know myself, understanding what I want, having that spiritual development to be able to say, okay, this is what I need to do to take the action to make that self-development, you know, and doing it in a nice, slow manner, but quick enough to please myself, because I don't want to overwhelm myself and go too fast, and then it's action, 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 and the next thing I know, I'm not where I want to be. But I don't want to go, because, you know, then I'll lose that chance to spiritually develop and grow. But I do want to go fast enough that I'm not feeling like I'm not accomplishing anything. Like, oh my God, I should have done this so much quicker, so much long ago. Knowing that nice medium, that I'm not overwhelming myself, but I am doing the best of my abilities, not you know, being lazy, you know. And so and that's why I just think it's really important that you look at Lisa Nicole's thing. It really like opened up my mind. So that's a big thing that she points out, is action is self-development, consciousness is spiritual development. You need to develop both. Why? Because the spirit, once again, does not care about the economy. Your consciousness does not care about the economy. I know we think that because we mentally are thinking to ourselves, oh this, oh that, oh that. But these are actions that we're worried about because we consciously are there. We're just not actively taking the actions to do it. This is something that she speaks about, is that we're sitting there on that ledge, afraid to jump, afraid to take that initial movement, because we're afraid of who knows what we're afraid of. I know it's different for everybody, so I'm not going to name off things, but whatever it could be for you, understand what that is, take that leap, and understand that 3 things could happen. You're either going to fall and hit hard. You're going to gently fall. Maybe hit not so hard. Either way, you're going to get back up again. And the best thing that could happen is you could fly. And that chance to fly makes it all worth it. You know? And knowing that you can keep doing it until you learn it. Until you end up flying. And like, so, I mean, I feel like I didn't even do that justice because she's like amazing when she speaks. But, yeah, so that brings me to my third point. We must develop both for a healthy relationship. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we need to develop our spirit and our self equally, not only for a healthy relationship with ourselves, but a healthy relationship with our peers, our friends, our family, and our career, social, job, whatever your everyday go-to is, where you're living your life, you know? I say you know a lot. Anyway. And the biggest thing to remember about all that, and I say this all the time because I know I'm just someone who is constantly thinking about this, self-love is not body image. And what I mean by that is that if you want to go and put on your makeup, and you want to wear an outfit that makes you feel good, and you want to look your best, do it. That's self-love. That's understanding that I can do a couple little things and bring out the best in me, and it's cool. I'm happy about that. But taking it to a point where you can't go home and clean it off and be transparent with yourself, seeing yourself as you are and saying, I still love you. Because if you're doing that to cover, because if you're putting on makeup and looking your best to cover the ugly, I put that in quotes because that's what I used to tell myself. And it's one of the reasons why I found it miserable to do my makeup, is because I just felt like I was just covering the ugly. If you're doing it for that, that's body image. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're doing it because you want to present that you are confident, present that you have this beautiful look, and you make guys like you, but the reality is you would never let them see you without your makeup. You know what I mean? You would never let them know that your makeup, what you look like underneath all of it. That, you know, you prefer yourself with makeup, but this is what I look like without makeup. And I also think that and I'm focusing on makeup, but this is what I look with no clothes on. You know, being confident to, you know, I just focused on something that was easy to think about, a topic that was easy to, and like relatable. But whether it's your clothes, whether it's your mannerisms, the way you speak, the way you eat, all of these things, you know, whatever it can be that is for you, that you're going through right now, that's stopping you from taking that action, you just gotta wipe it all away and just self-love yourself. Do what you can to bring out the beauty, not hide the ugly. You know what I mean? Because if you're looking at a connotation, you're really doing the same thing. Really. Honestly. I hate to say it like that. But the truth is you really are doing the same thing. But it's the connotation of it. Are you going to connotate it in a negative way? Oh, I'm hiding the ugly? Or are you going to connotate it in a positive way? I'm bringing out the beauty. So that's kind of like an easy, quick way to kind of understand where we must develop both. Because if we're constantly doing action, we might not be at that point where we're self-loving ourselves and we're taking the action to also consciously spiritually develop. So another thing I want to make really clear too is that your mind, you think of your mind as your spirit, okay? Because your mind is in here and you can't see it, you can't touch it, and you can't understand where it comes from, really. We don't have any scientific understanding of where the consciousness comes from. So, you know, so I think sometimes we kind of confuse our mind, what we're thinking, with our spirit, what I like to think is the subconscious, where it's all driven from. So, or the unsubconscious, I should say, where it's all driven from. Okay, so your mind cares about the economy, the development of your life, and the things you do, and the way you look, and all that stuff. Your mind cares about that stuff. And I think that sometimes we confuse it with our spiritual development. I think sometimes because our mind is thinking it, as we do them, we think we're developing our spirit. But we're not, because the spirit does not care about any about that. The spirit cares about satisfying your creative side. It's that simple. That's all your spirit cares about, is satisfying the creative side. So if you are taking those actions to do those things, that's awesome, but you need to also have that creative outlet. Whether it's a musical thing or an artistic thing, whether it's something where, like, say, economy life in your life, say, like, mind-wise, you go and get that new house. You know what I mean? Now you have to satisfy your spirit. You decorate the house, you make it look pretty, you put all these things that bring out your personality and make it feel like home. So, you know, that's like a simple way to kind of example to look at it when it's a situation where you are developing both at the same time. You know what I mean? So it's just a simple, small example I thought of in the moment. So just keeping that in mind, that you always have to do both. You can't just do one. Hold on. And the biggest thing is to know, to understand. Like for me, I had to understand. If you would have asked me that I would have this at my fingertips in this moment, now 2 years ago, I would have laughed at you and said, I hope my dream. That was my dream. And it's kind of cool because in some ways you could say that I'm living a piece of my dream. I'm starting it. I'm starting my journey. All because of this. Because I took a chance to step back and look at my actions and see where my actions were bringing me. And then say to myself, no, I need to self-love. And start developing my spirit as well as myself. Once I realized I wasn't developing my spirit, I realized my spirit was my anxiety, was my stress, was my inability to control these emotions that were just so strong in me that I didn't understand. To be able to understand those emotions, to be able to control those emotions. And this was all my spiritual development that I needed to do. I had the self-development. I had the skills, I had the ability, I had the confidence to go out and walk and do it. But did I have the consciousness to back it up to get me somewhere? No. And that's why my actions really didn't get me anywhere. Got me in a negative, angry state of mind of why is everybody else getting ahead and not me? So I'm focusing too much on everybody else, on their actions, and why my actions aren't being compared to aren't getting the results like their actions and whatever. But instead, now I'm starting to focus on my spiritual development. Am I happy with this reaction? Yeah. This is awesome. sorry I'm not where this person is yet, but you know what? I accomplished this today. Win! That's what I'm saying. You got to give yourself that win. And, toxic cycle of reaction to disrupt. And, okay, so the reason why I just sang that is because I wrote down toxic cycle of reaction to disrupt. You're disrupting that toxic cycle of I'm angry, this is happening to me. Now this is going to have a trickle reaction. Now that's going to have a domino effect. And this is all going to turn into a spiral effect of I'm in a bad mood. I'm angry. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get at when I say that if you feel like you haven't been getting anywhere with your actions, maybe this is why. Maybe because as you're focusing on your self-development, action, you're not focusing on your spiritual development. Because we think so much, so fast, all the time, that we forget that thinking is in our spirit. Our spirit is dancing. Maybe finding creative ways to get those actions out. Singing. Feeling. Whether it's sports. Whatever it is. You gotta feed that creative side of you. Now with that said, your action is determine a new action of your own. Easy one. So, sometimes that means you have to establish a mutual understanding with somebody else so that you can execute that action. But find an action of your own and do it. Now, the reason why I decided to change my scenery is because I did it. I am a part owner of audio workstations, and I am somebody who is part owner of studios in Islandia. That's what they are. It's two music studios and one podcast studio. And this is specifically Studio B. I'll give you a small little. So yeah, this is kind of just our small little detour. Oh, these are our computers. All the little things that we have. I'm really bad at filming from this angle, but And the reason why I'm showing you this is because I can't believe that I part own this. I can't believe I have a place where I can actually develop my music and become and take the action to do what I want to do, because at one point I couldn't tell you how to do this. I couldn't tell you where I would go for this. I wouldn't know where to start. Whereas now I have put the effort in to know the connections, to make the right moves, and to do the right things to be where I want to be. And that's really what I want to do for you guys. I want you guys to see these episodes and learn from it and develop your own mindset and do the research if you want and if you're interested, or hear what I have to say and take that and put it into your actions. But that's really what Motivational Monday is about, is just making sure that we focus on our self-development and we learn to do and be the best us that we can be and the person that we want to be. With that said, I'm very excited for
Mental Health Awareness Month's bunch of topics, because ironically they just happen to be a lot on all of that stuff. So next week I am going to be talking about loneliness. I'm very excited to do that topic because I found out a lot of my anxiety and depression comes from loneliness. And who would have guessed what loneliness does to you, and like all the different types of mannerisms that it brings up, and all the different types of reactions your body has to it. So I'm really excited for you to be on that topic with me, and all the different types of reactions your body has to it. So I'm really excited for you to be on that topic with me. I hope to see you guys next week. Thank you anybody who's tuned in. I hope you guys take the action seriously. Definitely comment, right? I'd love to hear it. The sites will all be down on the comment area, or in the whatever on the posting. And yeah, see you next time.